The wizarding world operates under a fundamental delusion in this timeline, that the boy who lived is a martyr, a figure lost to the wreckage of Godric's Hollow. They are wrong. On the night of October 31st, Bellatrix Lestrange betrayed her own husband to rescue her master's killer, driven by a soul resonance she could not name, but also could not ignore. In that nursery, she didn't find a hero, she found a masterpiece to be moulded. Hidden within the unplottable wards of the Lestrange estate, high in the French Alps, Harry Potter wasn't raised, he was cultivated. Today we deconstruct the rise of the Sovereign of the Dungeons, a weapon being polished in the dark to dismantle the world that forgot him. To the British ministry, she is a woman in self-imposed exile. Her reputation protected by the fact that the Longbottoms, unlike in our timeline, remained untouched, and her crimes scrubbed by the strategic bribes of the Malfoy family. To the world, Harry Potter is a ghost. The secrecy is absolute. During these formative years, the relationship between Harry and Draco Malfoy is the only genuine human anchor in Harry's life. They are brothers forged in the silence of the mountains. They spend their summers navigating the treacherous slopes and the even more dangerous depths of the Black Family Library. In Draco, Harry finds a mirror of his own isolation. In Harry, Draco finds a grounding, analytical presence that tempers his Malfoy arrogance. It is a bond of profound, unshakable friendship. Harry's education is devoid of the typical whimsy associated with magical childhood. Bellatrix treats his development as a series of technical milestones. He is taught to view his Parseltongue not as a freakish trait, but as a sovereign tongue, a biological key to a higher form of magic. His days are measured in the rigorous practice of occlumency. Bellatrix teaches him to architect his mind into a fortress, dispassionate and impenetrable. By age 10, Harry Potter is a creature of high society etiquette and subterranean power. He possesses a poise that is unsettling in one so young. He understands the resonance within his scar, not as a burden, but as a link to a greater authority. He waits in the Alpine silence, a weapon being polished in the dark, knowing only that he is intended for something far greater than the world he has been hidden from. The year 1991 passes in a hollow silence. Without the boy who lived to act as a catalyst, the gears of fate grind to a halt. Quirrell, unable to pass the Mirror of Erised alone, succumbs to the rot of his master's presence, leaving the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone if you're American, undisturbed and the school oblivious to the shadow it narrowly escaped. But the year 1992 offers no such reprieve. This timeline takes a violent turn with the activation of Tom Riddle's diary. Without Harry Potter to hear the sibilant whispers in the walls, the Chamber of Secrets remains a silent predatory force. The tragedy of Ginny Weasley is a methodical certainty. The diary consumes her entirely to give Tom Riddle molecular density. By the time the staff discover the entrance, a 16-year-old Riddle has walked out into the world, living, breathing, and technically lethal. Driven by a primal soul resonance, Riddle vanishes into the Albanian wilderness to find the Wraithmaster. Their merger creates a composite entity possessing youthful vigour and ancient dark knowledge, igniting the Second Wizarding War 2 years ahead of schedule. This surge in dark magic burns through Bellatrix's Alpine obfuscation, finally allowing the Hogwarts Book of Admittance to reveal Harry's signature. The arrival of the letter shatters the Alpine peace. Bellatrix moves to incinerate the summons, but is met with the steely resistance of the boy she built. Harry recognises the truth. To rule the world Bellatrix has described, he must first occupy its heart. The resulting negotiation is a masterpiece of political manoeuvring. Bellatrix meets Dumbledore on neutral ground, not as a fugitive, but as a high society matriarch, holding the world's most valuable asset. A calculated pact is struck. Harry Potter will enroll as a third-year student in exchange for Bellatrix's total immunity. Dumbledore, desperate to pull his saviour away from the rising darkness, agrees. The Trojan horse is invited inside. In the autumn of 1993, Harry Potter enters Hogwarts, not as a wide-eyed child, but as a dispassionate observer. While a quiet internal spark of excitement exists at finally joining Draco, Harry's exterior remains a mask of Alpine marble. His first day culminates in a formal summons to the headmaster's office, his true initiation. The meeting is a collision of two eras. As Albus Dumbledore speaks, Harry detects the shimmering twinkle in the old man's eyes. the telltale sign of a passive legitimacy probe. The reaction is instantaneous. Harry's mental wards, built through Bellatrix's relentless discipline, snap shut. He informs the headmaster with steely politeness that Dumbledore would find it prudent to stay out of his head. The tension breaks only when Dumbledore presents him with the invisibility cloak. He tells Harry it belonged to his father, James Potter. For a fractional second, Harry's dispassionate mask wavers. The weight of a lineage he has only known through Bellatrix's slanted history suddenly has physical form. Dumbledore notes the lapse, the twinkle returns, and the first move in a long-term psychological chess match is played. Within months, Harry fundamentally re-engineers Slytherin House, dismissing the existing pureblood hierarchy as archaic and inefficient. He establishes a new system based on merit and utility. Even the 7th year students recognize him as the true center of gravity, following a single quiet demonstration of his technical superiority in the common room. When Draco questions his interest in those outside the Sacred 28, Harry's response is methodical. The Wizarding world is an ecosystem, and power is found in the expansion of influence, not the isolation of it. This philosophy leads him to Hermione Granger. The Hermione of this timeline is a fractured intellect. Following the death of Ginny Weasley and the subsequent withdrawal of the Weasley family, she is utterly alone. Harry recognizes her raw talent as a strategic asset. He begins a campaign of surgical kindness, shadowing her in the library and utilizing the invisibility cloak to identify her research before coincidentally appearing to initiate academic discourse. The friction within the Brotherhood begins here. Draco is repulsed by the inclusion of a Muggleborn, citing the certain fury of their family. Harry remains unmoved, viewing Hermione not through the lens of blood, but through the lens of potential. This restructuring is interrupted by the escape of Sirius Black. Driven by the headline of Harry's return to the Black family fold, Sirius breaks out of Azkaban with a singular purpose. When he finally corners Harry in the darkness of the grounds, he is met not with a confused godson, but with a hostile judge. Fully indoctrinated by Bellatrix's version of history, Harry accuses Sirius of being the true spy, the man responsible for the Potter's end. He dismisses Sirius's plea as the ramblings of a broken traitor, leaving him to the shadows. Upon his return to the Alps for the summer, the atmosphere has shifted to high alert preparation. Bellatrix reveals the inevitable. The merged entity of Voldemort and Riddle has visited her. The Dark Lord is approaching the zenith of his powers. Bellatrix's instructions is no longer just about survival, it is about usurpation. She tells Harry that if he is to lead, he must be capable of defeating the Master himself. However, her final piece of intelligence is the most troubling. Voldemort has told her that Dumbledore spent the final months of the term in secret meetings with a Muggleborn named Hermione Granger. The asset is now a target. Harry is given a singular mission for his 4th year: infiltrate Hermione's confidence and discover what counter-offensive Dumbledore is building through her. The 1994 academic year begins under the shadow of the Triwizard Tournament, a spectacle Harry Potter views with methodical distance. His focus remains fixed on the directive from the Alps, the infiltration of Hermione Granger's confidence. While the student body buzzes with excitement, Harry operates as a ghost in the machine, documenting the movements of the headmaster and the increasing isolation of his target. The selection ceremony shatters this distance. When the Goblet of Fire ejects a 4th name, Harry's reaction is one of immediate calculation. Through encrypted correspondence, Bellatrix admits to orchestrating his entry. To her, the Boy Who Lived title is a stagnant relic. To lead the coming era, Harry must replace it with a reputation of demonstrated dominance. She has cleared the path, it is his task to walk it. Hogwarts fractures along ideological lines. On one side stands Harry's New Order, a coalition of Slytherins and outcasts. On the other stands Cedric Diggory, the golden son of Hufflepuff. The tension is palpable. Cedric, fueled by righteous indignation and a growing stilled instability, becomes a figure of mounting concern. Throughout the first 2 tasks, Harry's surgical mission begins to erode as Hermione becomes his primary collaborator. During a late-night session in the prefect's bathroom, the boundary between spy and partner thins to a breaking point. A moment of shared vulnerability, a near kiss, is interrupted only by the weight of their secrets. witnessed from the shadows by a revolted Draco Malfoy. This leads to the first profound rift in their brotherhood, as Draco views the association with a mudblood as a betrayal of the Black Legacy. The psychological climax occurs in the library on the eve of the final task. While probing Hermione for Dumbledore's secrets, Harry sees a flash of profound sadness in her eyes. In the silence of the stacks, the tension breaks. They kiss, a moment that represents Harry's first genuine deviation from Bellatrix's design. The third task serves as the final crucible. Harry and Cedric reach the cup simultaneously, and a duel ensues. Harry's wand work is a display of grey magic, sophisticated, high-tier spells taught by Bellatrix. He is decisive, masterful, and clearly superior. The defeat breaks something in Cedric. Unravelling from the pressure, his movements jerky and his gaze hollow. He tackles Harry as they reach for the cup. They tumble through the maze's exit, landing in the centre of the Quidditch pitch before the entire world. In a moment of catastrophic desperation, Cedric stands and levels his wand. He breathes the unforgivable, the killing curse. The reaction is a blur of high-speed magical theory. Harry transfigures the heavy metal of the Triwizard Cup into a temporary high-density shield. The killing curse does not break the barrier, it reflects. The emerald light rebounds with unflinching accuracy, striking Cedric Diggory squarely in the chest. He is killed instantly by his own hand, in full view of the world. Harry Potter stands alone over the body of the school's hero, the cup still in his hand. The atmosphere at Hogwarts following Cedric Diggory's death is one of suffocating reverence. Harry Potter does not experience the victory Bellatrix promised. Instead, he enters a period of analytical paralysis, haunted by the rebound of a curse he never intended to cast. In the corridors, the New Order offer him silent, crisp salutes, a disturbing recognition of his perceived lethality. To them, he is the predator who removed the light's champion. To Harry, he is an anomaly who survived by a fluke of transfiguration. He is haunted by the memory of Cedric's eyes, the frantic glazed desperation of a man who was no longer the master of his own soul. Hermione remains the only variable Harry allows through his mental wards. She validates his claim that the death was a tragic accident, providing a human grounding that the Lestranges never could. Yet the peace is short-lived. The return to the Alps is replaced by a summons to Malfoy Manor. There, the Prince of the Dungeons is finally introduced to the King. The merged Voldemort-Riddle entity is a terrifying synthesis of grace and malice. Suspended above the drawing room table is the body of a woman, a Muggle studies professor, serving as a centerpiece. Voldemort does not punish Harry for the tournament. He congratulates him. He reveals the truth with a cold, predatory pride. Cedric Diggory had been under the Imperius Curse for the final duration of the task. The Golden Sun was never a threat. He was an animal used to test Harry's reflexes. Harry had passed the test by eliminating the puppet. The meeting concludes with a steely mandate. Voldemort acknowledges the reports of Harry's association with Hermione Granger. Gesturing to the suspended woman, he delivers a chilling directive. Mudbloods are not people. They are temporary tools, easily exterminated. He executes the professor with a casual flick of his wand, the body hitting the floor with a finality that echoes in Harry's mind. He is dismissed with a single lethal question. Does he understand the hierarchy? Harry returns for his 5th year with a splintered focus. No longer content to simply observe, the Prince of the Dungeons withdraws into a frigid inner circle, ignoring Hermione on the Hogwarts Express. Draco watches with intensifying silent scrutiny, recognizing that the boy who left for the summer is not the one who returned from Malfoy Manor. The trauma of the merged Lord's hierarchy catalyzes a strategic pivot. Trapped between a headmaster's chessboard and a Dark Lord's anvil, Harry forges a third option: the Sovereign Army. Securing the Room of Requirement, he establishes a paramilitary unit focused on the methodical application of the Grey Arts, a force loyal only to him. Hermione's isolation ends in the confrontation outside the room. Shaken by his sudden frost, she demands an explanation of his descent. Harry's defense is dispassionate. He claims he is protecting her from a predator who views her as a subhuman, asserting he has no choice but to become the weapon Bellatrix intended. Hermione counters that choice is the only thing the Dark Lord cannot steal. She leads him to Dumbledore's office, finally breaking the silence of their special project. There, the architectural rot of Voldemort's immortality, the Horcruxes, is laid bare. Dumbledore reveals his blackened hand, the price of retrieving a lost heirloom, and confirms that Hermione's research into soul-splitting has been the project's cornerstone. As Harry prepares to leave, Dumbledore produces a heavy ring. Its black stone marred by a jagged crack. He presents it as a token of transparency, a physical weight intended to bind Harry to the headmaster's dying mission. Dumbledore warns that some burdens are too great for one generation to carry alone. To Harry, the gift feels like a calculated anchor, a way to keep the prophesized one on a short, moral leash. He storms from the office with the ring clutched in his palm, his trust in both sides decimated. For the first time in his life, he is truly alone. The climax is triggered by a direct mental command. Harry is summoned to the Department of Mysteries by Voldemort to retrieve the prophecy, driven by a desperate need for data that has dictated his life since birth. As Voldemort arrives to claim the sphere, the prophecy activates, revealing a surgical truth. Harry Potter is the only force capable of destroying the Dark Lord. Instantly, the prince is no longer a vessel to be groomed, but a threat to be eliminated. Voldemort's transition from mentor to executioner is instantaneous. As he levels his wand, Bellatrix, caught between her master and the son she manufactured, screams in a rare moment of emotional instability. Before the curse can be cast, Albus Dumbledore emerges from the shadows, flanked by Hermione and the New Order students. The visual is a chilling mirror, the Death Eaters facing off against their own children in a war of generations, separated by Harry's logic of utility. The hall erupts into a battle of high-tier magical destruction. While Dumbledore and the Dark Lord lock their powers in a distortion of space and time, Harry deflects Barty Crouch Jr.'s volley with needle-sharp precision. However, the timeline reaches its most devastating inflection point through a betrayal of blood. Draco Malfoy, fueled by a year of resentment, levels his wand at Harry's unprotected back and speaks the killing curse. Recognizing Harry as the only viable counter to the rising darkness, Dumbledore makes a final strategic sacrifice. He redirects his defense to shield Harry from Draco's curse, leaving his own flank exposed. Voldemort seizes the lapse, delivering a killing curse that strikes Dumbledore with a finality that signals the end of the old world order. As Voldemort moves to claim the Elder Wand from Dumbledore's cooling grip, Harry tackles him. In the violent collision, Harry wrestles the ancient wand from Voldemort's grasp, only for the Dark Lord to fire a point-blank killing curse from his original wand. Harry collapses, his body hitting the floor with a hollow thud, and the Department of Mysteries falls into an absolute terrifying silence. In this vacuum, a shattered Bellatrix turns her jagged gaze towards Narcissa and Lucius, demanding an explanation for the betrayal of the boy they raised. Lucius provides a biting final justification. The Malfoys will never rub shoulders with muggles and half-breeds. With that terminal rejection, Draco steps to his father's side, severing the Brotherhood. Voldemort begins to gloat, demanding fealty from the survivors. Some students break and kneel, but most remain standing, a testament to the loyalty Harry cultivated. Then Bellatrix's expression shifts from grief to a primitive religious shock. She drops to her knees, and slowly every person in the hall follows suit. Voldemort turns to find Harry Potter standing. The Sovereign of the Dungeons has returned. Without a word, Harry unleashes a relentless barrage of high-intensity curses, overwhelming his master for the first time in history. Recognizing the shift in the magical tide, Voldemort reclaims the Elder Wand, seizes Nagini, and signals a full retreat. In the aftermath, the Department of Mysteries remains a cathedral of kneeling figures. They do not look at Harry as a student or a hero. They treat him as a deity, a being who has looked into the green light of the killing curse twice and found it wanting. The methodical architect has successfully built a throne on the ruins of the Ministry. By 1996, Hogwarts has undergone a total transformation, evolving from an institution of learning into a sovereign stronghold, a fortified command centre for Harry Potter's new order. Following the events of the Department of Mysteries, a psychological paradigm shift has swept the student body. To those who witnessed Harry survive a second killing curse, he is no longer a student, but a theological certainty. This cult of Potter permeates the halls with a reverent, hushed awe that borders on worship. A sycophancy that Harry, raised with the dispassionate distance of the Alps, finds to be an illogical burden and a distraction from the coming war. Conversely, the external world has fractured under Voldemort's possession of the Elder Wand, and a ministry-backed counter-narrative branding Harry a half-blood pretender. The Malfoys, unable to reconcile Harry's grey ideology with their ingrained dogma, have fully committed to the Dark Lord, replacing the brotherly bond of the Alps with a steely enmity. Yet the most startling evolution occurs with Bellatrix Lestrange, whose devotion to Harry has transcended her previous fanaticism. In a radical departure from the Black family doctrine, she has abandoned her hatred for Muggleborns. If Harry deems Hermione Granger an asset, she accepts it as gospel, treating the girl with a maternal affection as a daughter of the House of Black. Within the fortress's inner sanctum, Hermione remains the only individual providing a grounded, human perspective, eventually delivering the surgical logic of Harry's survival. He was the final unintended Horcrux. The curse at the Ministry destroyed only the soul fragment within him. With this revelation, the strategic objective for the final year becomes the systematic dismantling of Voldemort's immortality. This campaign begins within their own ranks, as Bellatrix provides the Hufflepuff Cup from the Lestrange Vault, while Hermione, aided by Luna Lovegood's unconventional patterns of thought, locates the lost item of Ravenclaw within the Room of Requirement. The final acquisition arrives through a moment of startling bureaucratic sycophancy, when Dolores Umbridge arrives at Hogwarts to grovel at Harry's feet. Observing her with methodical revulsion, Harry identifies the Slytherin locket around her neck and demands it as proof of loyalty, which he surrenders without hesitation. Harry secures these artifacts but delays their destruction, informing Hermione that unmaking soul fragments requires a mastery of dark arts that Dumbledore spent a lifetime shielding her from. He tasks her with homework, learning the forbidden magic required for the ritual of erasure. As Voldemort consolidates his grip on Britain, he seeks international reinforcement from the Durmstrang Institute, leveraging Igor Karkaroff's fear. Karkaroff remains skeptical, demanding proof that this deity can bleed, prompting Voldemort to prepare his global coalition for a final assault. The challenge is issued with the historical finality, a meeting in the Hogwarts courtyard to decide the fate of the wizarding world. Master against disciple, king against scion. Harry Potter agrees, standing at the window of the headmaster's office as Hermione informs him her homework is complete. He nods, his gaze never leaving the horizon. "Good," he whispers. "Now I have to reach out to a family friend." The atmosphere of the Hogwarts courtyard is one of terminal tension. On one side stands the global coalition, Voldemort wielding the Elder Wand, supported by the Malfoys and the Durmstrang contingent. On the other stands the sovereign army of Hogwarts. This standoff is the culmination of a decade of Alpine preparation and subterranean politics. Voldemort begins his address not with a battle cry, but with a surgical deconstruction of Harry's divinity. He brands Harry's survival a trick of blood and accident, asserting that he alone is the artifact of resurrection, the only true god in a world of mortals. To prove this, he levels the Elder Wand. The first killing curse is a violent emerald rupture in the air. It travels with an inescapable velocity, yet as the light makes contact, there is no collision. Harry allows the curse to pass through his torso as if he were a spectral projection. The jet of light strikes the stone wall behind him, the resulting explosion echoing through a courtyard that has fallen into a terrified silence. A second curse follows with the same inexplicable result. Voldemort's composure fractures. He turns to Karkaroff, desperately labelling the boy an illusion, a hollow image projected to demoralise the ranks. But Harry continues his advance, his footsteps audible and heavy on the gravel, a physical reality that contradicts Voldemort's denial. In the shadows of the colonnade, Hermione Granger completes the homework Harry set for her. She incinerates the gathered Horcruxes within a bag of localised fiend fire. The psychic feedback hits Voldemort with the force of a physical blow, his immortality hemorrhaging in real time. The final anchor, the snake Nagini, is neutralised by a variable Voldemort never accounted for. Within the dumbstring ranks, a hooded servant steps forward. The hood falls to reveal Sirius Black, the old family friend Harry brought back into the fold. Sirius executes a precise strike of fiendfire, ending the snake and the final fragment of Voldemort's soul. As the Dark Lord falls to his knees, his physical form failing under the weight of soul loss, Harry reaches him. Voldemort's last defense is a whispered denial. A projection cannot hurt me. Harry does not respond with words. He reaches out and physically seizes Voldemort's arm, his grip cold and absolute. He pries the Elder Wand from the Dark Lord's fingers with an ease of a master reclaiming a borrowed tool. He leans in, his voice a hollow whisper. A wand will never hurt its master. The execution is not a duel. It is an administrative conclusion. Harry steps back and levels his original wand. A single jet of green light emerges, not out of rage, but as the final sentence in a decade-long trial. Dark Lord's body hits the stone, and the Second Wizarding War ends in an instant. Harry Potter stands in the centre of the courtyard, the Elder Wand in one hand and his own in the other. He looks out at the gathered masses. The transition is instantaneous. The Death Eaters, the Dumbstring Soldiers, and even his own students drop to their knees in a moment of total, terrifying submission. Harry's internal conflict reaches its zenith. He looks at the sea of bowed heads and prepares to speak the unvarnished truth, to tell them he is not a god, but a boy who utilised a series of calculated risks and technicalities to survive. He intends to dismantle the cult he never asked for. Then his eyes find Hermione, the only figure still standing. She looks at Harry, seeing the intent to abdicate, and she slowly shakes her head. She recognises the utility of the moment. Without a god to follow, the wizarding world will descend back into the same tribalism and blood war that created Voldemort. Peace requires a sovereign. Hermione Granger, the woman who knows the methodical truth, slowly sinks to her knees. The weight of her choice settles on Harry. He looks at Bellatrix, the woman who raised him on the ideology of supremacy, now kneeling in the dirt alongside those she once despised. He looks at the Malfoys, his brother Draco among them, broken by the weight of Harry's perceived divinity. Harry Potter makes his choice. He adopts the mask of the systematic architect one final time. He announces to the courtyard that he is indeed what they believe him to be. He claims the mantle of the God King, informing the kneeling world that the era of chaos is over, and the work of reshaping the world in his image is just beginning. The timeline ends not with a return to normalcy, but with the establishment of a new order, governed by one lie that can maintain the peace. In this timeline, we see a Harry Potter who did not just survive his fate, he engineered it. He traded the warmth of the Gryffindor common room for the dispassionate silence of the Alps, and in doing so he became the only force capable of stabilizing a world broken by blood war. But every throne has its price. By choosing to become a God King, Harry has sacrificed his humanity to become a surgical necessity. Now the question falls to you. Was Hermione right? Is a world governed by a divine lie better than a world left to its own tribalism? And what of Draco? Does the Malfoy betrayal represent a failure of Harry's leadership? Or was the weight of pure-blood dogma always going to be an immovable object? If you found value in this video, please signal your loyalty to the New Order by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification bell to ensure you're present the moment the next timeline fractures. Until next time, keep your mind shielded and your logic sharp. Thanks for watching.